Welcome to the Dance Reel podcast. Today, I would like to talk about how to be an effective dance studio leader. Leadership is something I personally had to learn the hard way. I'm not perfect and I will never be. But over the 23 years that I owned my own dance school, leadership became a daily practice. I was 19 when I first started my dance school, and I learned very quickly that I needed to learn some skills on how to effectively communicate, relate, and manage the leadership side of my dance school. So I threw myself into so many courses. I diligently studied human behavior and psychology and communication so that I could develop my skills and also to have a look at some of my own reactions that were not serving me as a leader. It wasn't something that I arrived at. It was something that I kept evolving through and still do to this day. I had to learn when to listen, when to be firm, when to pause, when to act, and how to be proactive and develop a culture that was true to my values and my community. What I discovered along the way is that effective leadership starts from the inside out. It's about understanding your own values, your triggers, and the emotional climate you create through your presence. To understand leadership, let's first look at your map of the world. Every person in your studio, teachers, parents, staff, students, sees life through their own map of the world. The map is shaped by upbringing, cultural values, past experiences, and belief systems. When two maps collide, you get conflict. When they're acknowledged and integrated, you get connection. Your job as a leader isn't to force everyone to see things your way. It's to learn to navigate between maps, helping people feel understood without compromising the boundaries and vision of your school. A helpful practice is to pause before reacting and ask, what might this person's behavior be communicating beneath the words? What story could they be telling me about themselves right now? What part of me is reacting, and what does that reveal about my map of the world, about my beliefs? This level of inquiry turns emotional reactivity into emotional intelligence. Let's take a look at relational dynamics. Studios can be emotional ecosystems. You're not leading individuals in isolation. You're leading an independent web of relationships. A teacher's tone affects a student's confidence. Parents' anxiety affects the teacher's composure. And your energy sets the entire rhythm of that ecosystem. In healthy systems, communication flows both ways. In unhealthy ones, power and blame circulate instead. When conflict emerges, whether between students, teachers, or parents, begin by mapping the system, not the symptom. Ask who is directly involved, who is being triangulated into it, who benefits from the current dynamics staying the same. Seeing these patterns helps you address the root cause rather than the surface behaviour. Let's take a look at communication, clarity, and psychological safety. So communication is the heartbeat of leadership, yet most leaders don't communicate nearly as clearly as they think they do. Here are a few practical strategies to help strengthen communication. Use structured check-ins. Hold brief weekly or fortnightly meetings with your staff. Start with what's going well? Where are we stuck? What problems have arisen this week? What support do you need? Consistent meetings reduce gossip and stop small issues from becoming personal conflicts. Next, set emotional tone. Your nervous system leads before your words do. If you're calm and grounded, others will mirror it. Take a few deep breaths before addressing tension. Pause until you can speak steady. It's important to separate facts from feelings. When mediating conflict, begin by identifying facts. What happened before the feelings? How people experienced it. This gives everyone common ground to start from. Model reflective language. Instead of you always or you never, try. I notice when this happens. What I'm hearing you say is, this creates understanding rather than defensiveness. This is an invitation rather than a judgment. This is compassion and curiosity rather than conclusion. And it's always important to follow up. After conflict resolution, revisit the situation later to ensure trust has been restored. Repair takes time, not just a conversation. Let's look at systems and organizations as emotional safety. Organization isn't just about efficiency, it's about emotional regulation. When things are predictable, people feel safe. Put structures in place in your dance studio, in your business, in your company for communication and accountability. A written code of conduct for staff and parents. Clear grievance procedures. A bully policy. Injury illness reports. And make sure you have a child-safe policy that is available to your parents. What's your communication channels? Are parents allowed to message other teachers directly? When I had my school, in the last 7 years, all communications went through the school manager, not from teacher to parent. That's what worked for me in the end, and you'll find what works for you. Term calendars and schedules. At the beginning of every year, every parent received a whole list of schedules for the entire year and teachers. So everyone knew dates, extra rehearsals, it was all there for them. Make sure you release yours early so that families can organise their own holidays around important dates as well. When people know the process, they feel at ease. When there's confusion, anxiety, sometimes gossip fills the space. If conflict arises, always return to the system. Let's go back and have a look at our agreed process. This removes emotion from decision making and reminds everyone that structure protects fairness. So let's have a look at understanding and resolving conflict. Conflict is not a sign of failure. It's just feedback. It's information. It shows where communication, expectations, or boundaries need adjustment. Here are practical tools for addressing it effectively. Firstly, regulate before you respond. Never address conflict in a heightened emotional state. Take a pause, whether that means 5 minutes, 5 hours, or a night's sleep. Emotional regulation is your leadership currency. Define the issue clearly. State what the conflict is about. Often people fight about surface issues when the real problem is unmet expectations or feeling unheard. Ask, what is this really about? What outcome would help you feel at peace? That doesn't mean you have to change your school rules just to suit one student. No, don't forget your boundaries. Invite ownership. Ask each person to identify their part in the situation. Responsibility restores empowerment. Choose the right setting. Never resolve conflict in public or on the run. Create time, privacy, and space for real dialogue. Seek mutual understanding, not victory. The goal is repair, not winning. When people feel understood, they soften, even if they don't get their own way. Close the loop, summarize the resolution, clarify agreements, and put them in writing if needed. Follow up later to ensure change is held. Recognize patterns. If the same conflicts repeat, the issue isn't the people, it's the system or the culture. Examine what the environment is rewarding or allowing. And let's not forget boundaries and self-care. Boundaries are the choreography that keeps leadership graceful. They protect time, energy, and integrity. Practical boundary strategies include limiting communication hours for both staff and parents, delegating operational tasks so your leadership energy isn't spent on logistics, setting clear expectation for staff communication channels, for example, email, not personal text, scheduling decompression time after emotionally charged meetings. One change I remember making in my dance studio was after 16 years of owning it. For the final 7 years, I removed my mobile number as the port of call and had a landline and emails where I directed parents to use either the email or the landline, because I was getting messages at 9, 10 p.m. at night about, things that were not important and things that were important, but I needed to switch off. So when I made that change, there were a few parents that did not like it. And The part of me that felt responsible for people really had to just stand in my power and not feel guilty for having that boundary, and just politely redirected them. Thank you for sharing this. However, you need to redirect this to our manager, and that's the email. I had to stand in my power and communicate to them that this is the best way I can be of service and be an effective leader, is to not always be so accessible. So then what would happen is general inquiries will go through to the manager first, and then the ones I needed to pick up, my manager will then pass them on to me. And that was a wonderful boundary for my mental health and self-care. And having said that, it was also difficult in letting go, because I also have that part of me that likes to be needed, but it also came in conflict with the part of me that did need to honor my boundaries and downtime. So your self-care is also your responsibility in your leadership. And remember, your nervous system is the most powerful regulatory tool in the studio. When you care for it through sleep, movement, boundaries, reflection, and emotional processing, you lead from stability rather than reactivity and strain. And this is the best gift you can give yourself, your students, your parents, and your staff. So one thing which is important to know is people want to be seen and heard. People do better when they feel seen. This isn't about praise, it's about presence. You can make someone feel seen by acknowledging effort in front of others, asking how they're managing rather than how they're performing, taking time to check in after moments of tension. When people feel seen, conflict decreases. They don't need to fight for validation. Recognition creates regulation. So let's have a look at when to seek support. No leader should manage every conflict alone. Sometimes situations involve deeper trauma, workplace bullying, or legal conversations. In those cases, bring in a neutral mediator. Consult a professional HR or legal guidance. Document all conversations for transparency. Asking for help does not make you weak. It models integrity. Leadership in dance is relational, emotional, and deeply human work. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about learning how to move through it with grace, awareness, and fairness. An effective leader listens more than they speak, pauses more than they react, and values relationship over being right. They build systems that protect people's well-being, and they use conflict as an opportunity to strengthen trust and systems rather than fracture it. True leadership is not control, it's conscious influence. It's the ability to hold vision and compassion in the same breath. When you lead from that place, your studio becomes more than a workplace. It becomes a community that grows through challenge rather than crumbles under it. Thanks for doing the work. And if ever you need any leadership, consulting, or help, check out my website. I do one-on-one sessions, bulks of 3, or email for a 3-month package. Good luck in your leadership, and in the meantime, let's keep it real. This episode was sponsored by Master Dancer Mindset. Know yourself, be yourself, and express yourself on and off the stage.